barefoot trimming over the past few years. The old stockmen and the old fellas back in the old days never ever trimmed a horse's hoof to be barefoot and lame. But what's happening nowadays is that because of the so-called Mustang roll and the Brumby roll, we've kind of gone too far with this beveled edge of the hoof. It causes huge problems in the horse. The horse's hoof capsule is there for a reason, and it must have something to walk on. If we bevel that edge away too much, it is going to be lame. And we can't be doing that. The old fellas never trimmed a horse's hoof back that far because they knew that if today they pulled the shoes off and trimmed his foot to be barefoot, tomorrow they just may need to hop on that horse and go and do some more stock work without shoes. And they were able to do it. But the barefoot trimming now seems to be so radical and so overdone that a horse's feet are lame, and it's tragic for the horse. I maintain, and I state this quite emphatically, that a barefoot horse is not competitive in a field of horses that have shoes on. A horse's hoof hasn't got the same grip to be competitive against horses that are wearing the appropriate shoes for the job. When I state that a barefoot horse is not competitive, I as a farrier all my life have been given the task of shoeing horses for performance, and the horse owner and rider expect me to be able to do with that horse's hoof that which will allow them to get to the top level of competitiveness. None of those horses are barefoot at that stage. It's unfair to expect a barefoot horse to compete on equal terms with horses that are shod with the appropriate shoes. So I say that quite emphatically. People are riding horses in endurance ride now, barefoot. They hang a pair of boots up on the saddle. When they get to rocks, they stop and put the boots on right over the rocky ground, then take the boots off and hopefully cross the line somewhere in the field and state that they've done this endurance ride barefoot. They haven't done it barefoot. They've done it with the aid of some kind of hoof wear, protective gear, to get to that point. We'll just jump ahead for a minute and take a look at the correct procedure for barefoot trimming. Then we'll go back and start with the basics, where all the procedures are explained fully. When a horse has been shod for a long time, nature loses the ability to maintain a strong hoof wall. Periodically we need to take the shoes off and prepare the feet for barefoot preparation. The horse still needs a concave sole. The bottom of the hoof is prepared exactly the same way. Instead we leave it up 3 to 4 millimetres to give the horse some hoof capsule to walk on. We still bevel the edges and reduce and control the flares. This gives the horse's hoof a rest from wearing shoes and nails. In the finished hoof, we need to remove all this flaring and get rid of all the weak pieces at the bottom. Identify the active tip of the frog and the two critical heel junctions. The active tip of the frog is here. The critical heel junctions there and there. The actual height of the heel is there and there. There is the critical junction of the sole and the hoof. Now we are going to take this down halfway around the front . So we're going to leave 4 millimetres hoof wall above the critical junction for the horse to walk on. You can see the horse has low heels and long toes and flares, so first of all trim the front half of the hoof. touch it with the rasp, being careful not to over rasp. And now we have to reduce the thickness of the hoof capsule. Get rid of the flares around there. And that also takes away part of the hoof wall separation and the flaring. We have left 3 to 4 millimeters above the sole hoof wall junction for the horse to have a hoof capsule to walk on. Now we reduce the flaring. And taper the hoof down. So you can see we have an even thickness of hoof wall around the front there. Now, measuring from the balance point, which will be explained in detail later, the finished toe is 6.5, so we go back to 6.5 at the heels, which is there and there. And you will see that this is also 4 millimeters up from the critical junction, so we get a level foot. Now simply plane that heel down to that height to achieve an equal balance. Six and a half to the toe and 6.5 to the heel. Now check the lateral medial balance, 7 either side. The finishing touch is to bevel this leading edge, which is very sharp, and just take the small bevel off like this. That leaves it with a nice round edge which is not sharp and the hoof won't break away. Now this hoof preparation simply means that this horse can still be used, can still be worked. It has a concave sole, a hoof capsule to stand on, an even thickness of hoof wall with no flares, and with the concavity of the sole here, there is room for the hoof to work, for the sole to drop and for the frog to work in sync with the ground. The only difference is now it hasn't got a wear plate on it or a horseshoe. And this hoof will maintain this profile and the horse can still be worked. The majority of barefoot trimming, we tend to take the hoof wall down too low and stand the horse on the sole. And then the horse has to endure a period of lameness until such time as this hoof wall grows back up. And it's very important to understand that without shoes you still need the height of a hoof capsule to work on. Ideally, just run over the hoof weakly with the rasp to smooth the hoof as you would with your own fingernail. Once you've done that for a while, you'll create a nice rounded toe and the hoof will start to maintain its natural profile, which will be the shape of the ideal coronary band.